I believe we're going to have pretty soon have a full ceasefire, and then we're going to have a contract. And the contract's being negotiated, the contract in terms of dividing up the lands, et cetera, it's being negotiated as we speak.
All right, President Trump proposing a limited ceasefire on attacks against energy and infrastructure within the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. Trump talking with both Presidents Zelensky and Putin on creating a full ceasefire to finally bring the end to this war. But with new attacks by both sides, it seems like a full ceasefire may be in jeopardy. Joining me now is President of American University Kyiv and former Special Advisor for Ukraine's Armed Forces, Dan Rice, along with the Director of Communications for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Andrij Dobriansky. Okay, so, Andrij, Russia's been advancing in the Odessa region, right? And the Trump administration has been working with other European countries to provide Ukraine with more defensive gear and weapons. Putin agreed to some ceasefire terms, but kept bombing. So where do things stand right now?
Right. What happened in the Odessa region is an overwhelming amount of Iranian drones that were launched by Russia against Odessa. So Russia still hasn't been able to get their personnel, their soldiers on the ground in Odessa. And Ukraine is doing the best it can, given the fact that, there were some arms shipments stopped less than a month ago. What's happening in the rest of the country is an enormous amount of determination and also a willingness to work with negotiators like President Trump. When Ukraine was asked what it's willing to do to get towards a ceasefire, they proposed putting a naval ceasefire and an air attack ceasefire. And President Trump asked for a full ceasefire for 30 days. And that's what Ukraine agreed to. We didn't see the same kind of capitulation by the Russian side. There was basically a proposition by them to start a ceasefire against energy facilities, something that Ukraine has proposed back in 2022. And then within that phone call, during that phone call, we already know that Russia had launched another wave of attacks, an attack that attacked a civilian hospital right at the border area and numerous other areas. So we're still getting a lot of bad faith by the Russian side. And that's something that I think President Trump and Steve Witkoff are going to have to work on.
So, a big part of trying to negotiate an end to this war is also trying to protect the nuclear power plants impacted by all this fighting. Here's what Zelensky said about that.
All nuclear power plants belong to the people of Ukraine. These are state-owned nuclear power plants. It is not in private property in Ukraine. Mr. President Trump asked me, what do you think about this station? I told him that if it does not belong to Ukraine, it will not work for anybody. It is illegal, and it's not capable of doing so. And it is a state-owned enterprise.
So, Dan, obviously, these are vital to Ukraine. How do they stay off limits?
They are vital to Ukraine. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant is a 6-gigawatt plant that is the largest in Europe, and it is owned by Ukraine, by the government. It is important to get that restarted and to be owned by Ukraine to restart Ukraine. Putin is attacking the grid every day. He has been for 3 years. So he does not want the grid to survive because he doesn't want a prosperous and a successful Ukraine. So he destroyed the Kakova Dam, which was one of the largest dams in Ukraine, and he did that to destroy the grid. He does not want to give back the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant because he wants it to power Russia. So that is a big debate, and I think that'll become a red line in the sand. Ukraine will not accept that. Also, President Zelensky rightly said that accepting these territories as and acknowledging they are Russian is completely wrong, and that's a red line in the sand. These are areas that were owned by Ukraine since 1991, since the free borders after World War II was started by Russia, by the way, and so these are Ukrainian territories. They should be owned by Ukraine, and they will not sign an agreement acknowledging they are Russia. So those are Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson. And he's trying to get territories his military hasn't even been able to achieve. So he's asking for more than he even has militarily. So these are non-starters. But Ukraine will continue to fight on the ground, in the air, and on the sea until there is a ceasefire and a security guarantee.
So Zelensky tweeted this video about the destruction in Ukraine caused by 200 Russian drone strikes and decoy drones. Meantime, you got Ukraine attacked an airfield deep inside Russian territory. Andrij, I mean, obviously, I don't think you do, but can Putin be trusted to go along with a real ceasefire, or is he kind of just playing with Trump?
Well, what President Zelensky said in the White House is that there were 25 times since he became president that Russia has gone back on its word to him. I think some viewers might remember that at the beginning of President Zelensky's term, there was this Normandy format where he got other European leaders together. They all agreed on working towards a peace plan. And what ended up happening is that every successive ceasefire, every successive negotiation was all broken by the Russian side. And you hear this a lot in the United States Senate. You know, even at Marco Rubio's hearing and Elise Stefanik's hearing, you heard senators like John Cornyn say that Russia cannot be trusted. You cannot trust a word that they sign on a piece of paper. So it's good that we do trust but verify in this country. I think having some kind of escalation from the American side, some way of showing that, just like they told the Ukrainian side, listen, we're going to stop doing this, this, and this unless you sign onto the paper for a full and total ceasefire. That's what Ukraine did. We're not getting that same kind of pressure on Russia, and we're just waiting to see what happens in the negotiation that finally somebody says, you know what, it's time to show peace through strength.
Dan, this week was, I guess, a step back, right? Where is this going to go?
I think one of the major events that happened this week that was very important for the future is that Ukraine launched what's called the long-range Neptune missile, and that was the plant the airfield you just looked at. That was a long-range plant. Those were bombers that were using aircraft to drop cruise missiles on Ukraine. So Ukraine now has a better weapon. It's the only cruise missile produced in Europe. And so it has about 1,000-kilometer range. It took out, prior to the energy ceasefire, it took out the largest energy storage facility and 50% of Moscow's fuel. So now Ukraine has a long-range weapon. So everything within 1,000 kilometers of Ukraine is within target. So all of the military facilities, all of the defense industries, all of the energy, when there's no ceasefire and energy, the whole Black Sea fleet, the original short-range Neptune took out the Moskva in April 2022. Now it's long-range. Now it can take out bigger targets. Putin's got to be terrified of this because he just saw his plant in Moscow go up in flames. So the Black Sea fleet, a third of it is in the bottom of the Black Sea. It should be 100% within a year if we get rid of the ceasefire. So that long-range weapon can be a game changer, and it's going to put more and more pressure on Russia. And that's why Putin wanted an energy ceasefire, because energy is fueling his war. And right now, Russia is losing $15 billion a month in their deficit. They're out of money. Europe can survive without the Russian economy. Russia cannot survive without the world economy. And so Putin may have the fancy watches, but Europe's got the time. Just hold out the sanctions.
Yeah. Dan, Andrij, it's good to have you. Thanks for making it easier for us to all understand.
Thank you. Good to see you, Rob.
Thank you.
Andrij.